What's up, everyone? It's your boy Richard Graves. How the heck are you? I'm doing a show today. As you guys have been following my Facebook page and those who've been following my Twitter page, a lot is going on. Had some discussions about Roe v. Wade, had some discussions about corporal punishment, had some discussions regarding this whole shootings. These shootings have been happening down in Uvalde, Texas, and the one we had last week up here in Highland Park, Illinois. Also have had some discussions about some of the crime and gun crime going on in inner city communities like in the west side and south side of Chicago and Baltimore and places like that. Today, I'm bringing on my good friend and contributor, Mr. Jonathan Golden, and we're going to talk about these things. And you guys can hear us just chit chat. And if you guys want to make any comments, I am monitoring the Facebook page and I'm monitoring the YouTube page. So anybody who wants to get involved in the conversation. So let me bring on Jonathan.
Hey,
what up, bro? How are you?
Doing good.
Good to see you, sir.
Lots been going on, bro.
Yeah, the world has been an interesting place. There's a lot of this, a lot of that.
You know, some would say it's always been this interesting. We just have the benefit of social media now.
Of course, I would agree with that. It has
nothing new under the sun.
I'm going to agree with you with that. It has always been that interesting. But now we're in a place where we actually can talk about it in real time in many cases. So, where do we begin?
let's start with, let's do the corporal punishment, because you put up a post. What did your post say?
Which one? I have drama.
The one about, hold on, I'm trying to put it up now. Let me get to it.
Are you talking about my parents spanked me as a child?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me talk about that for a second. My parents spanked me as a child. As a result, I now suffer from a psychological condition known as respect for others. Yes, I posted that, and I have at this moment 44 shares and 70 comments, and 189 likes and one sad face. I don't know who the sad face is. Let me see who the sad face. No, I got two sad faces. From a couple of my Facebook friends. I won't put their names on blast. Two sad faces. All right. Yeah. I thought that was innocuous. I honestly did not expect. Can I say something about my Facebook page, man? All right. All right. And so people get it out their head that I just sit there looking to argue with people on Facebook. Let me tell you what's actually going on when I post something on Facebook. I find something I think is cute, a little funny. I post it. And I go back to writing my dissertation or one of the two books I need to finish, or I'm usually watching a movie or something, or most of the time is when I'm studying or something. It's usually a good distraction to keep me, from going off the reservation completely. If I'm studying ontological concepts or if I'm studying social political issues, which is most of the time what I'm studying, and then I might put up a Facebook post. So people, I'm not sitting there waiting to argue with you. Number two, this one right here, I didn't think anything was going to happen. It was something that I thought was funny. I wasn't trying to make an overarching statement about corporal punishment, but it became that discussion. What did you think, Jonathan? Go ahead, man.
I saw it. It was innocuous to me. I was like, okay. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? I think that there's an era of where corporal punishment was used for discipline. And the purpose was obviously to curb, rogue actions, but also to respect others and understand. I think that understand the respect for elders, the respect for women, respect for authority, period. And corporal punishment was used to make sure that children, adolescents adhere to that. There's arguments for or against it. Regardless, there still was my generation and in the past, previous generation still did have a healthy understanding and more of a healthy respect for the elderly, for women, and children. And the reason I mentioned those three three demographics is because, you know, there ain't no honor among thieves no more. These mofos is out here doing anything to anybody with no regard to people being soldiers or civilians. Everybody to them is a soldier. You know, the concept of, you know, thieves or soldiers or whoever you in the game, you a soldier, and everybody ain't in the game. We're gonna leave them alone. These motherfuckers out here doing anything to anybody, and there's no respect for that. And that's what makes the next subject, which we're gonna get into, so curious. And is corporal punishment the end all be all? No. Is that the only thing you always do? No. But that kept your ass in line, flat out.
Well,
It kept you in line.
let me say this about corporal punishment. Okay, can you see me now?
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, I'm getting a weak signal now that I'm really about to say something. But let me say this. It is generally the left that is against corporal punishment. All right. And let me know if I dip out, you know, you can feel free to jump in.
Shout out to my girl Kristen who watching.
Okay, so
I love for y'all to get on together.
All right, so it is the left. It is let's just put it out there. It is the left, the progressives and liberals who are against corporal punishment. That is consistent with the fact that the left are the people that say ridiculous things like violence is never the answer. So this goes along with their greater worldview. The greater worldview that there is never a time when someone is supposed to get hit in the mouth or smacked on the butt or whatever. And don't get me wrong, within the rule of law, of course, we shouldn't be arbitrarily going and hitting people, all right, or fighting people. But there, you know, people who say violence is not the answer, I always say that depends on the question. And that depends who's asking. All right. So let me be clear. And this is just anecdotal before we get to the actual intellectual part of it. You know, there is a time when somebody got to get stolen on. Let's be real. All right. I don't believe in violence as being the first go-to. And there are some children who you can talk to and they'll get the point. And there are some children that you're going to have to smack them on the butt a few times. It all depends on who we're dealing with. It is purely who you're dealing with and how they respond to correction. Some people don't believe the fat meat is greasy. So you have to show them at least one time that the fat meat is in fact greasy so that they know that there is a consequence that could be that. And it sometimes regulates behavior because of that consequence. All right. I myself was not a child that got too many butt whoopings. But when I did, it changed the behavior. Mm-hmm. One, because the disappointing of the parent aspect of it. When I disappointed my mother particularly, it made me feel some type of way. Secondly, when my mom was the one who did it, it wasn't my pops, it was my mom. All right. My mom had a switch on reserve. All right. Every summer, she started the summer with a nice switch. And, you know, and honestly, yeah, I did get my butt whooped sometimes. And yes, I think that for me, I'm going to say for me, I don't know for anyone else, but for me, it helped me be not in prison, not the one who made the dumb choices. Because I thought about consequences. I was more afraid of my mother than I was afraid of the police. I was more afraid of my mother than I was afraid of any gangbanger in the hood. All right. Because I knew she meant business. All right. My mom was so good that when I got to Marine Corps boot camp, when the drill instructors were hollering and threatening me, I'm like, you lightweights. My mother got you faded. This is going to be a cakewalk. All right. But I'm not saying, all right. Now, first, let's make the distinction. There is a distinction between abuse and a spanking.
Yeah.
All right. One time, my nephew, he was around 2 or 3 years old. He was trying to put a fork in an outlet. Of course, you know, we did all the child protecting things, little outlet caps and stuff. He was at the house crawling around, pulls out, a smart kid, pulled out the safety plug and was insisting on putting his fork in there. So I grabbed him, I popped him on the butt a couple times, and that was it. Mm-hmm. A conversation with my nephew about the ills of electricity and how you can get electrocuted at that time, but now have been very effective since he was 2 or 3 years old. That pop on the butt made him realize this is something that I shouldn't do. And that's it. That wasn't abuse. I didn't take a belt out and beat him. I just a couple pops on the butt and a no. And he didn't repeat the behavior. So again, to those who want to say that is never the option, again, that depends entirely on who you're dealing with and what the question is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I got challenged academically on this. So
Mm-hmm.
let me just get this out here. All right. And Jonathan, please bear with me. I know you have to hear this when I'm talking to you. I wish I could say it like I say it when I'm talking to you, but I have to use Her Majesty. Yeah. You know. So using Her Majesty's people, I do not lead off conversations with what degrees I possess. I don't lead off conversation with I'm a PhD candidate in public policy, or that I have a master's degree in history, or that I have a master's degree in theology, or what my undergraduate degrees, or what my certifications are in. I don't lead off conversations like that because it's not really relevant or germane when we're having a conversation amongst people on social media,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So when you decide to appeal to authority, all right, because I am a social scientist, because in the aspects of public policy and law, I've had to ask these questions about corporal punishment. I've had to do research about corporal punishment because of use of force and law enforcement, because it's all on the same line of using force. All right. So, because in the job I work at, I have to deal with some of the children who y'all wouldn't took a belt to their butt when you should have. Now I have to deal with them and have to determine when I have to use force to deal with them or when it's a conversation. I had to research this very deeply, not just for my academic work, not just because of the book that I'm writing that deals with this in policy, not just because of the fact that I'm a social scientist. We deal with PsyDs and PhDs in psychology and sociology. Often we have to talk to them as social scientists to get their perspective on things. And I have to do the peer-reviewed research. So when you come to me and you say something like, well, the research shows, unless you produce a PsyD, a PhD, a doctor in social work, or a doctor in some social science that you can show me that you've actually done the research, I'm going to say, okay, pump your brakes. I have done the research. I'm currently doing the research. I work with PsyDs. I work with psychiatrists. I work with PhDs in psychology. I work with masters of social work and people who are doctors of social work. I have to familiarize myself with a lot of things because of us working together in the field that I work in. But I also work with these people academically with a different set of social workers and psychologists and social scientists because of the research I'm doing. So I'm not trying to say that you're stupid. I'm just going to say, think about who it is you're talking to. Because at the end of the day, people tend to do that. When people, and they always do it to me first. If people get mad at me, call me a bully because someone pulls a knife on me and I pull out the AK-47 that I have. I'm the bad guy now.
At least you didn't say AR-15.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, I like the Kalashnikov. That's my favorite. All right. So when I pull out my Kalashnikov with my degree, loaded with my degrees, then I'm the bully. I'm the one acting like I'm smart. No, I'm not. I didn't bring it up. You did.
Hold on, Rich. Hold on.
Yeah.
You know, we don't like to think that we're better than other people morally or as far as human value. But damn it, some of us are better in education and just know more. We need to stop it, Rich. So sometimes you just, like when we have talks about history and public policy and some things, there's certain things that I know, but then you kind of come in and educate me on history of things. I'm like, all right, Rich know this. Maybe I need to shut up and listen to Rich. Yes, talks about history. You see what I'm saying? So sometimes, yeah, you are better knowledgeable than other people, than most people. Because most people on Facebook spouting off what they feel and their opinion, and their opinions and their feelings have value that'll make their opinions and feelings reputable or credible to be listened to, though.
Well, I tell people this. I say we all have our opinions, but our opinions are not equal when it comes to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
I will not bring up my education at all in a conversation. I'm not going to try to bully someone into my point of view. I will bring it up when you say something like, well, I took History 101. And I say, well, that's nice. I'm a historian. And if that hurts your feelings, that fact, I'm sorry. You don't. It's like this. There's stuff I don't know. If I'm talking to a person who has a degree in business management, what am I going to say? Well, I took an econ class in my undergraduate. And when you say, well, I have a master of business administration, I need to listen at that point. Right. There is no point in me arguing with you because And I'm the one who brought it up. If we're talking about economics, and you're telling, hey Richard, I think we're going into recession. I said, well, Jonathan, I took Econ 101 in my undergraduate program. Now let me tell you something about the economy. And then you say, well, I have an MBA. All right. Then I say, well, there's a lot of MBAs that agree with me. Oh, there might be. But you are an MBA. And I'm sure there's a lot of MBAs that agree with you. So let me give you an example. You better come with it.
Now, back to your whooping. So I was a child that was not spanked at all. Not at all. And I was an only child. So I had sense enough to know if it went down, it was me. So that kind of kept me in line because I actually thought about what I was going to do before I did it. You know what I'm saying? But I wasn't a kid that needed that. Saying all to say, when I get to my kids, I can count on my hand how many times I had to do that with them. Not because they didn't need that. When I said something, they knew what time it was. I wasn't making a threat. It was a fucking promise. So, and my daughter, she didn't want no parts of that. I maybe spanked her twice.
Right.
She didn't want no parts of that.
And and you bring up a good point, Jonathan. Like with my children, they got nowhere near what I got growing up. Mm-hmm. And I think as we go through generations, we learn different ways to approach these things. And I very rarely had to do that. And when I did, it wasn't, again, I have a problem with people that think that any spanking is child abuse. You got that group that doesn't know how to have a nuanced discussion. Mm-hmm. If you can't separate the difference between a pop on the butt for a 2-year-old trying to put a fork into an outlet and someone beating someone where they're bleeding or bruised, if you can't make that distinction, then I'm not going to talk to you anyway because you were clearly a moron. There is no point in I'm sorry. Yes, I said it. If you can't make that simple distinction, you are a moron. I don't care how much research you said you've done. You're an idiot. You're a willful idiot. The worst type of it. You're a willful idiot. You're choosing to be a moron. All right.
But let's say this though, Rich, and I think certainly education lends to credibility in facts that you can bring, and certainly those are valuable. I mean, you can argue where you got the education from, and this is that and the third. I think that becomes irrelevant. But the point I'm getting to, I don't think that you have to have research on education to form an intelligent opinion that is reasonable and respectable. I think the problem is most people are functioning so high on their emotions that reason, regardless of the level of education, is not even considered. And like you said, people bring their own trauma in, and now they become anecdotal. Yes. And because their experience has to be what everybody else's experience is. Right. I mean, the baby boomers, they got their ass whooped their whole life. That's what it was during that time in that period. That's what it was.
Let me be clear. Let me be clear, Jonathan. Mm-hmm. I want to agree with you, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to say this clearly. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying you have to have a formal education to have an intelligent opinion. You just have to be open to an actual discussion.
Yeah.
All right. You have to be open to the possibility of possibly being wrong.
Right.
All right. And be open to the discussion. So let me be clear. I'm not saying you have to have a PhD, a master's degree, a associate's degree, a GED, whatever, to have an opinion and to have an intelligent discussion. I'm just saying the moment you come to me with, I talked to the experts or I took a class, then you opened yourself up for what I give you at that time. I don't start with that. We'll have a whole discussion. I've discussed this stuff with people. They have no idea what level of education I do or do not have because we're having a respectful conversation amongst people having a conversation. Right. But when you get in your feelings because you're disagreeing with me and you throw out, which you took a basket weaving course in your local junior college and you think that applies to this discussion, then I'll say, oh, really? You took a basket weaving course? I teach basket weaving. I have a master's in it. then don't get mad when I tell you that. You brought it up. That's all I'm saying. You asked for the Kalashnikov. You brought a knife. It's your fault. What are you gonna do about it? You know. So what was the famous James Caan, who recently passed away yesterday? What are you gonna do? Not for nothing.
Not for nothing. Huh?
You know,